Well, it's day 3 of wheat harvest. We got a good chunk done yesterday, like I said. Pretty happy. Feels like we're just not making much time across the field. I don't know what it is. If it's just like you get used to doing, or the last crop you do is corn, and it's kind of heavy, high pace, and that's what you have in your head from harvest last fall that you kind of finished up with, and then you get into wheat and the yields are good, so it's running 100 bushels, but it just seems like we're going slow. So we're doing about 3 miles an hour. As I said, we're trying to save the straw and take, I wouldn't say a lot of straw, but I say we're leaving about 6 to 8, 10 inches of straw in the field in terms of stubble, and the rest, you know, we're putting in the windrow behind the combine to bale up for the sheep. I was just going to give you a quick tour of where we're receiving the wheat here, and I'll get some footage of that. We're just trying to wrap up the last of the connections for our top dry that we have here that got installed for this year's corn. So we just got to connect the natural gas line over to the burners that are right over there. I'll give you a more in-depth tour of the whole setup. It's made a bit of a zoo coming in and out of here. Well, not a zoo, but just a little tight. As you can kind of see by the tire tracks where Jack's been going, it's just not quite as nice as it could be based on the center of the pit kind of being where I am right now. So he's just got to go around that hole where we have the natural gas dug up, but that's not a big deal because the way we had our old setup, you had to crank the wheels for the wagons anyway, so it's not a big deal. So this is kind of the new system we put in. There's an overhead right above me. So we'll put wet wheat in that we're gonna have to dry. So far we've been pretty lucky. All of it's coming off under 14%. So we're just putting it in this bin right here that I'm pointing at, and it's about half full. It's a 20. Well, probably with the wheat and the test weight, it's about a 23,000 bushel bin. So it's not quite half full. It's probably got about 10,000 bushels in it. Over the last kind of day and a half we've been at wheat harvest. So Jack's just driving in with the wagons from behind here, coming in. They empty right here on this kind of side of the pit, and he's got some controls he uses to turn on the pit and the leg right here in this panel. Got a nice little magnet on it to hold it open. So in here is just the controls that he uses to run the pit and the leg right up there. So I said I'll give you a more in-depth tour, but so this is where we're receiving. It used to take probably about 7, 8, 9 minutes to unload a wagon before with our auger into a wet bin or into just a normal bin. He's doing it right now in 5 minutes, 15 seconds I think he timed it at. So he's basically able to unload 800 bushels in like probably 15 minutes total. So we've been really lucky because the farm we are taking the wheat off is just over beside the home farm here, and he's just been using 2 400 bushel wagons hooked together to haul the wheat home, and he's actually waiting on us. So when we were doing some upgrades on the farm over the years, we upgraded our combine and increased capacity, harvesting capacity. And then what that did was made our grain buggy too small that we kind of used to pull grain away from the combine and keep it running efficiently. So we upgraded the buggy, and then that was good. So the combine and buggy matched up really nice, and then we actually got to a point where our grain system just wasn't quite of size to kind of keep up with the combine that's harvested in the field, and same with the corn dryer. So we put in a new top dry that I'll explain in another video, and put in this pit and receiving area so that we can actually crank through the wagons and get them empty quick and get things back to the field to keep the combine going. So it's been an awesome addition to our farm. It's one of those things that we kicked the can around for a long time, trying to figure out how to do it right. And all I can say to anyone that's thinking about a grain system, take time to plan it out and think about it, because once you start putting some infrastructure in place, it becomes difficult to move things around. We're pretty fortunate with our system here for the most part that we didn't have to do too much tinkering to get stuff to work. And we've kind of designed it with the expansion in mind, and I'll talk about that some other time. But so this is where Jack's coming in with the wagons, and it's as I said, working tickety-boo. And for those interested, this is how we haul our grain. We call them gravity wagons. People call them V-boxes. Those are 400 bushel each, and we just haul them with our tractor, our loader tractor. We just take the loader off when we're doing kind of hauling wagons and stuff like that. So 170 horse tractor that we use to haul those 2 wagons. We have 6 of those Bruns 400 bushel wagons. We have a couple Underverse, and then we have some really older J&Ms that have been on the farm since I was a kid that we kind of use more for seed and fertilizer. Anyways, I'm gonna get the combine out, flex head down to the field. We got 10 acres to finish up in the one field, and then we'll move to a new one. So we'll see how the morning goes. Just getting the combine fueled up. Has a nice little platform to work off of. Just getting some diesel in her. For some reason, when the draper head's attached to the combine right now, it always says the combine's full of fuel. And I don't think it is, because we just combined for a day and a half, done 101 acres with it. Kind of the way we go is every 2 days we just put fuel in it. I could tell you a story about what happened when you don't watch the fuel gauge or don't pay attention to how much or how many acres you put through the combine, and how a combine can run out of diesel fuel, and then you think it's plugged filters and a whole bunch of other things, and realize that the diesel fuel tank on the combine is empty. And the worst part about that whole story was Sandy was like, "You sure it's got fuel in it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's got fuel in it, it's got fuel in it, it's something else." And then finally I banged the side of the fuel tank on the combine. I'm like, it's got no fuel in it. So she, that was probably one of the best days of her life, I think. It was proving me wrong. Got the combine fired up here for day 3. As you can see, the moisture starting here this morning is a little bit on the higher side. We'll test that first set of wagons with the moisture tester when Jack picks it up and takes it back to the yard to empty. And if it's kind of like above 15%, we'll just turn the diverter on the leg and put it in the overhead and segregate that wetter stuff from the dry we've been taking off the last 2 days. As soon as we see that moisture drop enough, we'll switch the diverter back to the bin that we were using the last 2 days that's got dry weed in it, and we'll put it in there. But that's the really cool thing about the system we have now, is before we would have to lower an auger, move it to another bin, put weed in that bin, move it back to another bin, put dry weed back there, and we'd be moving an auger back and forth. With this system now, all we have to do is turn the distributing head on the leg and put it to the bin we want it to, and it just makes life so much easier. So that kind of efficiency we've created in our grain setup just makes the process so much nicer. So We only got probably about 6 acres left here in this field, maybe a bit more, and they're going to move down the road and take some weed off on another field, start a new one, and hopefully keep trucking along here. As you can see, I'm not steering the combine. The nice part about auto steer is that we can keep the header full and the combine full all the time. Consistently feed product into it, keep the same amount of volume in the combine. And it just makes such a nicer job combine and get a nicer sample. You're not kind of, we call it slug feeding, not kind of bunching up crop and then wadding it all through at one time. We're consistently putting product in. The combine works a lot better that way. We have auto steer pretty much in every main motorized piece of equipment we have on the farm, the combine, sprayer, and 3 tractors, and it just such an efficient way to farm anymore, and really deals with fatigue. If I sat here all day trying to keep the combine full and going back and forth and watching the corner, I would have to watch the corner of the header right over there all the time. You know, you can do it, and I know lots of people still do it, and I just find that I'm not as fatigued at the end of the day, and I can spend some time watching the sample that we're doing with the combine and making sure that what's in the grain tank looks good. So just a benefit that we like.